Hi, dear friends. Welcome back to Better Version, the channel that shares knowledge for holistic self-development through inspiring books. This week, I invite you to listen to a sharing from Better Version titled, Where the Next Flower Will Bloom, Where Flowers Bloom, We Meet the Buddha, inspired by the book, The Path, A Guide to Happiness, by the Venerable Tibetan Grand Master Kenpo Sherab Zangpo. Shakyamuni Buddha taught that all sentient beings possess Buddha nature unborn, undying, neither increasing nor decreasing. We all inherently carry the Buddha mind. Every doubt, trouble, and suffering you encounter in life can be illuminated by the philosophy of Buddhism. The Path, A Guide to Happiness, is a book that can help you draw closer to this Buddha nature. The author, Kenpo Sherab Zangpo, is a respected Grand Master of the Dzogchen lineage and an influential spiritual guide for millions. He was also a direct disciple of the late, greatest venerable master of the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism, Kenpo Jigme Phuntsok, founder of the world's largest Tibetan Buddhist academy, Larang Gar. This book is listed among Amazon's top 100 recommended reads, with its English title being The Path, A Guide to Happiness, and the original Chinese title, roughly translated, meaning Flowers Bloom Continuously. From the moment I first heard this title, I was captivated. Flowers bloom continuously means that flowers will bloom sequentially, following a specific order. In nature, all things abide by the law of cause and effect. Following this law, peach blossoms bloom in spring, lotuses radiate in summer, golden chrysanthemums grace autumn, and sunflowers proudly stand in winter. Similarly, in life, each period holds its own missions for us. When you flow with the current of destiny, you will naturally perceive what you are meant to see. With beautiful, gentle, and easy-to-understand language, coupled with modern thinking and expression, the wisdom in this book is not just for Buddhists, but for everyone. Reading it, you will learn that life is a journey of experience, a path of walking and awakening simultaneously. But if you are still caught in life's busy whirlwind, unable to focus and realize this, if you still harbor many worries, sorrows, and hesitations, then you can find solace in this book to apply its profound philosophies to your daily life. It will help you escape insecurity and reshape your inner world. Then, you will realize that in the next place, flowers will bloom. Where flowers bloom, you will see the Buddha and awaken with every step. Now, let us delve into this book together and discover what each of us needs to awaken to, what to practice, and what wisdom for inner peace we need to learn. Please listen to today's sharing. Understanding suffering. Why haven't you truly escaped suffering? What are the 3 great sufferings? After the Buddha attained enlightenment, he did not teach any profound dharma immediately, but only expounded the 4 noble truths. The truth of suffering, dukkha, the origin of suffering, samudaya, the cessation of suffering, nirodha, and the path to the cessation of suffering, magga. Among them, the truth of suffering refers to recognizing that suffering is an objective and unavoidable reality. The origin of suffering analyzes the causes that lead to suffering, while the cessation of suffering and the path speak of how to end suffering. Perhaps many still acknowledge that this life is a sea of suffering, yet we may not have a comprehensive understanding of the nature of suffering. In Buddhist scriptures, suffering is divided into 3 types: the suffering of suffering, Dukkha-dukkha, the suffering of change, Viparinama-dukkha, and all-pervasive suffering, Sankhara-dukkha. So, what is the *** suffering of suffering **? It refers to the most apparent pains, such as physical and mental injury, illness, fear, loss, death, family members being hospitalized, business failure, disobedient children, and so on. These are all called the first type of suffering, the suffering of suffering. Simply put, this is the suffering that people experience and cry out, "Why am I suffering so much? Why am I so unlucky?" The second type of suffering is the * suffering of change *. These are experiences we initially perceive as joy, but because their underlying nature is still suffering, they eventually transform from joy into pain. For example, when 2 people are together, there is a space of happiness, but separation will undoubtedly bring pain. Or, one day, one of them will have to leave this life. This is the suffering of separation by life and death, which everyone must face. Or when we eat delicious food that satisfies our taste buds, but if you eat uncontrollably, illness will fill your body. Or, sleeping in, enjoying your eyes, or playing games for a long time for a moment, you feel refreshed, but in the long run, it harms your body. These are all called the suffering of change. If there was no happiness beforehand, there would be no pain afterward. Therefore, if we think deeply, we will see that all happiness in life inherently conceals future pain. Finally, all-pervasive suffering is an even deeper form of suffering. It is the pain arising from helplessness and dissatisfaction with the entire state of existence, being trapped in the cycle of samsara. All things in the world are constantly changing, but the human mind cannot accept this law. Humans are constantly obsessed with pursuing permanence, hoping for eternal careers, eternal love, eternal happiness. However, nothing in this world goes as expected, and so all kinds of suffering arise from here. From these three types of suffering, we see that the life of an ordinary person is surely accompanied by suffering and ends with suffering. All these things are not decided by ourselves. More specifically, in the human realm, there are also 8 kinds of suffering. Rich or poor, strong or weak, we all must experience 4 pains: birth, old age, sickness, and death. Most of us are aware of these 4 pains. But there are 4 other types of suffering that people pay less attention to. The suffering of meeting those you dislike, the suffering of separating from those you love, the suffering of not getting what you want, and the all-pervasive suffering of the 5 aggregates. The suffering of meeting those you dislike, on tang hoi, is the pain of resentment when things go against your wishes. For example, when you are forced to do something that goes against your desires. The suffering of separating from those you love, ai by it lie, is the pain of permanent separation by life and death. For instance, one day we will forever cease to see the people we love in this world, or the sorrow of parting ways when still deeply in love. The suffering of not getting what you want, khao bat dak, is when you fail to achieve what you desire. For example, despite giving your all to someone, they still don't love you, or dedicating your heart and strength to work, only to end in failure. The final suffering is the all-pervasive suffering of the 5 aggregates, bat duck lamb, meaning that even when we recognize these sufferings and resolve not to fall into them, they still come naturally. This encapsulates all the suffering an ordinary person living in this world will encounter. As long as life exists, suffering will inevitably occur. So why must we learn to fully recognize suffering and accept that, no matter what, suffering will always exist? The author says that acknowledging the universality of suffering may sound negative and pessimistic, but in reality it is not. Because we always have the habit of viewing suffering as a manifestation of failure, we try to avoid it, or we think, if I can just make everything stable again, I'll stop hurting. Along with this, we try by all means to overcome it. Doing so might temporarily reduce your anxiety and fear, but in reality, it doesn't solve the core problem. When failure happens again, you become discouraged and suffer once more, even falling into a state of resentment against fate, living this loop for the rest of your life. In truth, you need to know that if you only deal with the surface of suffering, you will never escape it. The Buddha taught the truth of suffering so that you can truly achieve happiness through a deep and comprehensive understanding of it. This way, when suffering has not yet arrived, you will not worry or fear. When suffering is happening, you will not easily crumble. And when suffering has passed, you will not live in obsession and lamentation. Because when you awaken, you will know that as long as this body exists, it will surely grow old, get sick, and die. As long as greed, anger, and delusion persist, you will surely feel pain. Therefore, to resolve suffering, the first step is to accept the objective reality that we cannot avoid suffering. The second step is to understand the root cause of suffering. Buddhism believes that the root of all suffering and the cycle of rebirth lies in self-clinging, chap and ga, a deep-seated misunderstanding of ourselves in relation to the external world. We believe that illusion is reality. What is this illusion? It's believing that you and the external world exist in an absolute, independent way, without needing to be observed based on conditions. It is an excessive obsession with the existence of the self, leading to the separation of the individual from their true nature. We believe in and cling to the individual self, which here is your physical body. We also believe in and cling to all the karmic conditions we encounter, believing that everything we possess in this life is real. From this, ignorance and illusion arise because the more we believe, the more we fear losing, the more we desire, the more we cling to this material world. From this, all kinds of desires and cravings are born, ultimately leading to suffering. This clinging to and perceiving one's own thoughts and feelings is called self-clinging in Buddhism. Things do not exist as solidly as we think. Rather, they depend on many different internal and external conditions, constantly arising and ceasing without inherent or permanent nature. In the Buddha's words, it means that everything is truly impermanent Vothyuang, and non-self Voanga. Impermanence is not an invention of the Buddha, but an obvious truth often overlooked by people. Only by clearly understanding that all things are impermanent and the self is non-existent can you let go of self-clinging, which also means eradicating all suffering at its root. So, what is impermanence? We see that winter passes and spring arrives, the moon waxes and wanes, joy and sorrow ebb and flow. All things that are born must die, what comes must go. Simply put, impermanence is the universal characteristic of all phenomena. Everything cannot exist forever. It is constantly arising and ceasing, always changing. We humans suffer because we constantly pursue the beauty of eternity: status, fame, wealth, conditional pleasures, and long-lasting, strong relationships. And sadly, people only realize impermanence when they have no other choice, for example, when faced with illness, separation, or misfortune. It is precisely because of this that most people often mistakenly believe that impermanence itself causes suffering. Thus, they try to pursue what they think is the opposite of change: security and stability. But in reality, impermanence does not cause suffering. It is the fear of impermanence that gives rise to your suffering. Perhaps many have had a similar experience. The more you fear something, the more you avoid looking at it. The more you avoid looking, the more you fear. This is how people deal with impermanence. Now, if you can turn back and look directly at this obvious truth, you will find that impermanence is not as terrifying as you think. If there were no impermanence, there would be no change. If there were no impermanence, the sun setting would not be able to rise again, people separated would never meet, severe illness could not recover, a depressed mood could not light, failure could not be overcome, and so on. As mentioned in the book, Right View, that I shared previously, we should not just look at one side of impermanence as suffering. Do not use dualistic thinking to assume that joy and suffering are opposites, that joy is to be held onto and suffering is to be avoided. This book once again affirms that you should learn to calmly observe all changes in life at any moment. Fully recognize suffering and become familiar with impermanence. Only then will your soul truly be at ease, open, and appreciate life more. Next is another profoundly important practice philosophy: non-self Voanga. Like impermanence, non-self is merely a universal characteristic of all phenomena. It is neither good nor bad in itself. Non-self means that things, including ourselves, do not have an absolute inherent nature. For example, when you lose weight, if you consider this body me, where does the part of me that is lost during weight loss go? Will the me after losing weight still be me? Whether your body is fat or thin, strong or weak, it is always changing as external conditions and internal components change. Since everything is always changing, how can there be a true self? From this, we can see that considering your body as me is, in fact, just an illusion. Some people might wonder, if this body isn't truly me, then my mind surely must be me, right? If the body is constantly changing, then human emotions, thoughts, and various consciousnesses cannot be permanent either. If the physical body is not me, then a mind that changes every moment is even less likely to be me. In summary, you will realize that non-self means there is never an unchanging self, no independent and eternal reality. The body and mind of any living being are constantly changing. Both people and things are non-self. So, what is the purpose of understanding impermanence and non-self? The author says that hearing the philosophy of impermanence and non-self is a blessing for all of us. It gives you a new perspective to observe the entire truth of life in the universe. At the same time, it is also a wonderful remedy to end suffering. For us, the purpose of understanding impermanence and non-self is to apply it to daily life and effectively extinguish painful emotions. So, how exactly should one practice? For example, recall if every time you were sick you thought, "I feel so uncomfortable, I'm in pain, why am I suffering like this? When I recover, I must definitely exercise and take care of my health." Pay attention to the expressions of your words, body, and mind in this situation. It is submerged in pain and full of manifestations of self-clinging. Another story tells of a monk who accidentally pricked his finger and bled, but the monk immediately told himself, "Self-clinging is truly strong in this situation. This is the correct way to face it. When all painful and negative emotions arise, tell yourself, this is self-clinging. This physical body is not truly me, and everything is impermanent. The self is non-existent." However, this does not mean we should interpret it as, "This body is not me, so I don't need to solve the problem." On the contrary, understanding that you are non-self allows you to let go of self-clinging. That is, you don't cling to the fears and pains of the present that your ego perceives. It helps you become objectively calm in the face of all events, to deal with them quickly rather than falling into crisis. When you first approach and practice this philosophy, you may find it difficult to directly experience non-self. But we can start by reminding ourselves daily that everything is non-self. Simply repeating such a small contemplation regularly will help you remain calm in the face of all difficulties. Furthermore, ending suffering has another sacred mission: to help you realize that you and all things are interdependent and intimately connected. Erecting a fortress of self-clinging and drawing clear boundaries with others is truly futile. From that, you will gain the ability to be more caring, tolerant, and compassionate, and to establish harmonious relationships with the external world. This is also the most important purpose of this book, to make you understand that, where the next flower will bloom, where flowers bloom, you meet the Buddha. Realizing impermanence and non-self is to know that flowers will always bloom sequentially, even when you are suffering, being oppressed, running out of money, failing a business project, being treated badly by your loved one, experiencing declining health, or losing a loved one. All suffering is a normal state. If you can view this as an opportunity to understand the nature of all things, then perhaps a life full of anxieties is an opportunity for your liberation. We can end suffering from within suffering itself. From within the pain, we will see flowers bloom. When flowers bloom, you will meet the Buddha. This is an analogy for your complete awakening to live a full and meaningful life and return to your true self. When flowers bloom, wisdom will open. With wisdom guiding you, you will take correct actions. So, what kind of action is considered correct? How should one live and practice? Let us now move on to a profoundly important next section. Awakening. Only the Bodhisattva mind can bloom the flowers of peace and happiness. Kenpo Sherab Zangpo suggests that when first embarking on the path of awakening, if non-self is not easy to understand, we can start with * karma, cause and effect. If Buddhist belief could be summarized in one sentence, it would be the belief in cause and effect. In this world, everything follows the law of cause and effect. That is, nothing happens without a reason. Everything is specifically interconnected. When conditions are ripe, a result will surely manifest. The Diamond Sutra states that every word, action, and thought we have carries corresponding consequences. The consequences of some actions appear quickly, while others may take a long time to manifest. We need to know that everything in this world is illusory, but one thing is never illusory: karma. If the consequence of an action does not ripen in this life, and you do nothing to prevent it, it will surely ripen in the next life or the one after. Therefore, not all our current experiences are results created by you in this present life. Some may also be the result of seeds sown in previous lives. No matter how much time passes, karma will not disappear on its own. If you have done your best now, but life still brings anxieties and sorrows, you need to know that these are the results of seeds you sowed in the past, now manifesting. And when the seeds have been sown in the past, you cannot change them. What you can change are your actions in the present. Sow beautiful karmic seeds right now. From the philosophy of karma, simply put, from a practical perspective, if you don't want to feel pain, abandon thoughts and behaviors that bring suffering. If you want happiness, cultivate thoughts and perform actions that bring happiness. This is sowing good karmic seeds. But how exactly should you sow them for the flowers of peace and happiness to truly bloom? The author says the best way is to cultivate the * Bodhisattva mind * Tam Bodha. When we speak of the Bodhisattva mind, many immediately think of kindness specifically, engaging in charity, making donations, and so on. But is that truly enough? In reality, some people consistently donate money to soothe inner turmoil. No matter how much they donate, if they remain ignorant in self-clinging, it is futile. The most important awakening for having a bodhisattva mind is a clear understanding of non-self and karma. Only when you clearly understand this can your soul be freer than ever before. You will not open your heart with compassion for any self-serving purpose. In other words, you will no longer perform conditional acts of kindness. At the same time, you will naturally realize that many people in the world are still suffering needlessly because they do not know non-self and karma, and thus they continuously create negative karma. From this, you will naturally want to help them end suffering and achieve happiness. This is truly cultivating the bodhisattva mind. Next, we need to fully understand what it means to be a person with a bodhisattva mind. The bodhisattva mind is a concept built upon the four immeasurable minds **, also known as the four immeasurables: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. A person who can truly cultivate the bodhisattva mind is one who practices these four minds. The first mind is ** loving kindness, tam. This is the wish that all beings be happy and at peace. Cultivating loving kindness means nurturing the capacity to love, learning to treat others with sincerity, kindness, and harmony with the external world. For ordinary people, treating everyone equally from the outset is very difficult because everyone is born into the material world and develops an egoistic mind towards others. Therefore, the best way to practice is to start with yourself, that is, treat yourself with loving kindness, love yourself, and help yourself be happy. From that happy heart, gradually extend kindness to those we love: family, friends, strangers, and even those we dislike. But it is important to note that being kind to yourself does not mean indulging yourself, because indulgence will only make us increasingly disrespectful of ourselves, not happier. Furthermore, developing loving kindness towards yourself means understanding yourself gently and observing your own arrogance, ignorance, ruthlessness, and rigidity with humor. After all, these stubborn things are just games created by our minds. Once you understand the game behind this illusion, you will gradually no longer be confused, anxious, or controlled by it. By becoming an observer of our own behaviors and emotions, we will gradually learn what kind of behavior brings happiness and what causes suffering, and we will no longer unintentionally harm others. The second mind is ** compassion, tam. Compassion means you feel pain more gently and powerfully. Having learned to maintain awareness of suffering, you will begin to observe your internal emotional changes and your own reactions. You see panic, hurt, and resentment within you, but now, with the most open heart possible, you will have a deep understanding of the root causes of suffering. From that, you will not look at the suffering of other beings with aloofness. On the contrary, you can empathize. The foundation of compassion is equality. Never take on a superior attitude, like a stronger person pitying those in difficult circumstances. You will find that when you develop compassion, you can easily feel all the pain and misfortune of others. When you see suffering, you do not immediately turn away. Within your capacity, you feel the pain of others and extend a helping hand. Next, the third mind is ** sympathetic joy, tam, which means gratitude for your life and circumstances. In traditional Tibetan Buddhist education, the first step is to genuinely appreciate and be grateful for everything that happens to you. With a joyful heart born of gratitude, born of contentment, it will allow you to naturally focus on and appreciate everything you are doing. And finally, the fourth mind is ** equanimity, tam, meaning being open enough to accept everything. When a person can look beyond the familiarity of likes and dislikes, that person can treat all beings naturally and equally, with tolerance for all, without prejudice. This is called immeasurable equanimity. However, we need to note that although this book discusses loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity separately, these four immeasurable minds are not independent. They encompass and integrate with each other. Remember the saying, "A gift is a rose that leaves a lingering fragrance on the hand." Cultivating the bodhisattva mind is so you can give and do your best to help others, to free the poor from destitution, to care for the sick, to awaken the ignorant, and to make the despised feel respected. You will see that the more compassionate and giving you are, the less you will cling to anything, and the more you will stop focusing only on yourself, better able to help others. The more you help others, the more you transcend your own limitations. Ultimately, you will be fully awake, clearly seeing non-self, impermanence, and the dynamic interplay of karma. This is a continuous cycle where flowers bloom, illuminating your path forward. You will be amazed that with every step of this journey, flowers have bloomed, and with blooming flowers, you have seen the Buddha. So finally, when should you start acting? How long should you act to see the flowers bloom? Perhaps upon seeing this question, many will guess what I will say next. The time to start acting is right now. But alongside that thought, another voice within you might rise, making you want to ignore and postpone practice, saying, "There's still plenty of time, I can do it slowly." If you have such a thought, first listen to this Buddhist parable. In a boundless ocean, a piece of driftwood floats on the waves with a hole in it. At the bottom of the sea lives a blind turtle that surfaces only once every 100 years. But it would take an infinitesimally small probability for the turtle to surface and immediately pass through the hole in the driftwood. This story implies that the chance for us to obtain a human body is truly as rare as the blind turtle emerging from the ocean depths. Buddhist philosophy believes that obtaining a human body in samsara is merely a fleeting flash. A human body is difficult to attain, and yet we have attained it. The Dharma is difficult to hear, and yet we have heard it. Therefore, cherish the time to cultivate yourself and live this life well. We need to understand that the purpose of learning about suffering, impermanence, non-self, and sowing good seeds is not an intellectual game. If you only treat these philosophies as a treasure trove of knowledge in your mind without practicing right now, without cherishing each day to cultivate yourself in a short human life, it is like a patient who treats a doctor's prescription as mere merchandise and does not take the medicine to get well. You will never be able to remain calm in the face of suffering. You will forever be like the blind turtle sinking in the ocean of ignorance. There is a saying that people cannot grow through understanding and knowledge alone. We can only grow through experience through each act of practice. Others can do everything for you, but they cannot feel for you. Others can give you medicine, but they cannot cure you. Therefore, don't just listen, practice right now. Stop drinking salt water to quench your thirst. Because your mind is restless, you have spent your life trying to build a wall between yourself and the outside world. That wall is meant to give you peace of mind and make you feel safe from all the changes of impermanence. In reality, this desire will only disappoint you again and again because it is a contradiction. If happiness comes from external things, then the impermanence of those external things you pursue will also be full of anxiety, fear, and suffering. The more you try to chase them, the more it is like drinking salt water to quench your thirst. Long-lasting and true happiness and peace cannot be found from external sources. I hope that today's sharing through this book will help you better understand some fundamental philosophies, the core tenets of Buddhism, to realize that only when you clearly see the nature of all things in life can you truly become the one who steers your own life. The Buddha's philosophy, regarding the true meaning of life, is like a lamp in the long night, illuminating the path to liberation for countless travelers, including you and me. Due to arrogance, confusion, stubbornness, and fear, we have missed many opportunities until today. Even if we haven't appreciated it yet, there are still those who hold the Buddha's lamp of wisdom, waiting in the endless night, lighting your way forward. And those are people like Kenpo Sherab Zangpo, Thich Nhat Hanh, Kyabj Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, and many other Zen masters, spiritual teachers, and guiding mentors. They tell you that if we truly understand impermanence, non-self, and the law of cause and effect, and if we always remain awake from self-clinging, sow good seeds, and cultivate the Bodhisattva mind, then your life will be a truly auspicious journey. As you walk, flowers will bloom. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. Give me a like, hit the subscribe button, and turn on notifications to catch our latest videos every week. Thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you in our next videos.